anything we looked at last time before we get into this, or?
From last time, hold on, let me get my notes. No, not right now.
Okay.
No questions.
All right. So basically, there's no magic that moves a shipment from being ready to be ready to be invoiced. It's all handled by the status of the load. Okay. So, like this shipment 28, it's completed, and it gets completed when that last check call gets added. Okay. So we added the check call to say that load is done. At that point, it's completed, and then it's ready to be invoiced. Okay. So that's the process to invoice a load. You just complete the last check call, which moves it to that completed status. And then the next thing you would do is go in to invoice it. And so when you're ready to invoice, it's going to happen under rate and pay. And then this process invoices and memos, and that's for credit memos. Okay. That's going to open up our batch screen. And we're going to have a couple different types of batches that you're going to look at today. All the batches are going to work the same. Okay. There'll always be a new batch button to create a new batch. There's also going to be a search here to look up batches that have been created. Okay. In this case, we don't have a batch for invoices yet. So we're just going to create a new one. When I'm ready to create it, I just hit new batch there. And you'll see it's going to bring us into this invoice batch screen. Okay, it's going to create the first invoice batch number, which is in this case 1. Which of your companies are you going to invoice for? Okay, so you'll have multiple companies here that you'll be able to choose from. So whichever company you're billing from, you'll select that here. And then you have the option to bill for one specific customer if you would like to. Most people don't use that field. But, you know, if you do, let's say, Amazon, and you've got hundreds of loads for them and you just want to keep them kind of all on one batch, you can select Amazon here, and then the next screen all will show you our loads for that one customer. Okay. And then this part right here is what is going to be the invoice date. Okay. So you could, you know, it's always going to start out with the current day's date there, but you could pre or post date this if you need to. Okay, so this is going to be the invoice date on those invoices that get created, and then the due date will get calculated off of this date. Okay, once I hit save, you'll see that'll open up my add shipment button here. And then to add shipments, I just click the add shipments button there. You'll see this will bring up our shipment window. Okay, this is all of the shipments that are in that completed state. So if there's a load that you were thinking you want to invoice and you don't see it here, then it hasn't been completed yet. You would just go in and complete that by adding those check calls. At the top up here, we do have some different types of filters. So I can say, you know, I only want to invoice for loads that have a POD. And then you'll see that narrowed it down to just this one shipment. Okay. You can also use any of these different reference numbers to help you find. So I want 941. Okay. Or customer shipment number, kind of any of these you can use to help you find the loads you want. Once you find the shipments you want to invoice, you just check the box next to it here and then hit OK. And that's going to add those shipments onto this invoice batch. Okay. Any batch can have up to 50 invoices on it at a time. That's kind of where we cap it out. You can do as many invoice batches in one day as you want, but only 50 in one batch. Okay. We recommend somewhere around 25 to 30 in a batch, just for the speed of processing everything. Okay. Here you're going to see kind of each invoice that we're going to create. So from shipment 25, it's going to become invoice 25. Over here, it'll tell you if you have the POD on file, how we're going to, you know, what's going to happen with this, how you're going to bill them. So for all of these, they're set to bill via mail. If it was set to bill via email, as soon as we post the invoice, it would get sent to them via email. Okay, and then over here, we'll kind of show you what we're billing. So we're going to have flat and fuel on this one for a grand total. Okay, it'll also show you if there was a driver and how much you're paying them. Okay, over here, you can reload an invoice. So if you need to get into it and make changes, I can hit reload to grab those changes. I can also look at the documents. Okay, so I know that there's a document in the POD folder here. I can click on this little document management, and it'll open that up. I can preview that document. If the document wasn't on there and I needed it, I could look it up on my computer. Okay, so if I got it somewhere, I could go and find where that's at. Okay, so I have the confirmation sheet. Now it's attached. Okay, and then you can do the same things for any of these other loads that are in here. If I have the confirmation sheet, again, I can go find it. Same thing with proof of delivery. Okay, does that process make sense? Any questions about that so far?
No, all good so far.
No? Okay. Once I get my batch kind of to the point that it's ready to be sent, all I'm going to do is hit post. And that will actually post it, send it. If we were emailing, it'll also transfer it to QuickBooks. Okay. If I see something about a load, maybe I know that there should have been fuel on this shipment number 28. That's what this little pencil's for here. I can edit the shipment. You can see I can scroll down to the bottom. You'll see that flat rate is grayed out. That's because it's on the invoice already. If I need to edit that, I can take it off. But if I just need to add additional charges, I can do that here. So, all right, I know we need to charge for fuel for this customer. And you can add that on here at however you need to do it. Okay. Once you make that change, you would just save and close out of that shipment and hit reload, and you'll see that'll add that fuel line on. Okay. Does that process make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Once I'm done, I'm going to hit post here, and that's going to send that off. It's going to start generating those invoices. All of that runs on a timer. So every 5 minute on the 5 minute mark, it should go in and create those invoices. It would also create the bundle and then email them to the customers if that was set to happen. Okay. Do you guys do factoring? I forgot.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So basically for factoring, what you will do is on this side over here, you'll want to put your factoring company's information. And then on those invoices, we'll use that information in the remit to up here. So instead of saying remit to you, it would remit to your factoring company. Okay?
Okay.
And then when we generate those invoices, we will also didn't do it. I missed that 3:15 mark. It'll also create a bundle and apply it here as well. Okay, and that bundle you'll be able to download and send off to the factoring company. So I'll show you that when it gets created at 3:20 here. So that would be how you would invoice a customer. Now, you may have invoiced a customer and then realize, oh, I missed a lumper, I missed a tension, something like that. We need to go back and re-invoice the customer for that shipment. And you can do that at any point in time. So, let's say shipment 25, we missed detention and we want to add that on now. All I have to do is open shipment 25. So I can do that either from here, from the edit shipment, or if I don't have, maybe I don't have the batch open and I just need to open up shipment number 25, I can open it up. And you'll see down here at the bottom again, those two lines have already been invoiced. Up here, it's going to tell you, we created invoice 2501, which was on batch 01 today. Okay. But if I need to add additional charges, I just click the add charges down here. And I can add whatever charges I need on. So there should have been 2.5 hours at $65 an hour. Okay. And then the next time I go to my process invoices, so I go back to rate and pay, process invoices again, and I create my new batch. When I go to add shipments, you'll see that shipment 25 will be there again, but in this case, only for that additional charge. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is going to be invoice 2502. And so it's going to go to QuickBooks as 2502. And that way you'll have both the first invoice and the second invoice, and you can link them together. Okay. And then same thing. Once I'm ready to post it, I hit post. It will generate at that 5 minute mark. If you want to see a copy of the invoice at any point in time, you can check the little box over here and print it. And so this will show you what your credit memo would look like, or invoice. In this case, it's invoice 02. And then down here, you'll see this is for the detention. Okay. This information down at the bottom, very similar to like your confirmation sheets. If you want to change that, you can do that on the company. So the remit to information is going to be there by default, but down here at the bottom, you can put information. So if your factoring company wants a little blurb there that, you know, this load has been sold to whatever company, you can put that information here, and it will show up down on the bottom of the report in this location. Okay? Does that make sense? Any questions about that?
No.
Okay. And then the same thing could happen if you had overcharged, you know, so maybe, let's look at number 27. I think we invoiced that. You know, so we did a Tony load there. That one doesn't make much sense. Let's do 28 again. So on this one, you know, we charged $1,500 for the flat rate. Well, maybe that was not correct. We were only supposed to do $1,200. And so we overcharged them by $300. I can do the same thing, add a flat rate here, but in my quantity, I would make that a -1, like we're going to return $300. Okay, and so that's going to make a $300 credit to their account. Okay, and so it's going to take their total down by $300. Okay, and then same thing when I go to process invoices the next time and save, and I add shipments. That load's going to show up again, but this time only for the -$300. And so this is going to call it a CM for credit memo 02. And so that's how it's going to go to QuickBooks as a credit for that customer. And then the same thing. I can, from here, print that credit memo itself just to see that return charge. Okay. And then we also have a button here for print a summary. And so some customers want to see just a grand total invoice. And so this will show you for shipment number 28, down here at the bottom, all of the different charges that you did. So you charged them for flat, fuel, and then you had the credit for their flat rate. Okay, does that process kind of make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And so, let's see that it created that yet here. Oh, I wonder if I've got, I didn't have it set to create the bundle. Okay, so now I'll turn on your bundle here. So on the next 5-minute mark, we should get a bundle that will get generated and put in here, and I'll show you what that will look like in a few seconds. I guess a few minutes when that gets created. Any questions on the invoicing process? Does that make sense?
Well, my accounting team, they are gonna look at it again later. Okay. I'm recording this right now, so if they have any questions, they probably may ask later or something. You know?
Yeah, and we can do another like question and answer period kind of after they've had a chance to look at it and whatever questions they might have. So again, depending on what which company do you use for factoring?
Engaged Financial.
Okay, so we don't have a direct integration with them at this point in time. So basically, all the factoring companies we work with, they basically kind of want the same type of information sent to them. So they normally have some kind of cover sheet, and it's going to look something similar to this. So this is what that cover sheet would be. In this remit to section, we're going to have their information. So this comes from whatever's in this remit to here. Okay. And then the cover sheet basically just shows each customer, the main reference number. If you had whatever's in field 2, it would show up there as well. And then date information and how much. Okay. So it gives them kind of a total sheet. And then what the bundle does is it's going to take this first page and then look at the batch and create one big PDF file with invoice 25, all of its supporting documents, then invoice 26, all of its supporting documents. So they kind of have all of that information in one PDF that you can then, email over to them. Okay, so
Okay.
that's invoicing, and again, that bundle will get created here in a few minutes, and I'll show you what that would look like. For the next step of settlements, so paying your drivers, normally there's going to be a couple steps that you're going to do before you actually do that settlement. One is going to be advances, and so we don't have that EFS integration set up yet. I sent you guys the sheet for the steps that you'll have to do, and you'll have to do that on the EFS portal. You go in there and tell them that you want to integrate with us, and then they'll send us information of how to connect and pull your daily EFS transactions. But what will happen is every day we'll take those files and go in and auto-populate advances for you. So it'd be the same thing as if you wanted to manually do advances. The system just does it for you. So under rate and pay, there's an enter advances section where you could actually go in and build advances and look at the ones that get created. And so those advances will come in with some basic information on them. We'll try to match up driver information off of this reference field 5, which will be the driver's fuel card number. Okay, so if you have that driver's fuel card number, what you can do is on the driver's profile in this accounting HR section, put their fuel card number here. And then when we get a fuel advance for that fuel card number, we'll know to match it up to that driver. And then we'll follow whatever rules you have set for that driver type. So if it's a company driver, there can be one set of rules, and if it's a lease driver, there could be another set. And I'll show you here in a second where you can set up those rules. So the top part will just have some address information, where it happened. They'll often send what type. This was at the Flying J and the address. Okay, when it happened, driver information, and then down here, what was purchased. So, there were 50 gallons of fuel at 302. And so it'll kind of total up. And then if they have reference numbers, etc., it'll show up over here. These boxes on the advances are pretty important. This will insert that driver's name on it when it goes to QuickBooks. Okay, so normally if you have a driver or carrier linked, you're going to want this checked. That way, just when it goes to QuickBooks, you'll be able to kind of match it up a little bit. Okay, this was fuel that Josh purchased in St. Louis, Missouri. Okay, if this isn't checked, then the driver's name won't show up on that advance, just that there was fuel in St. Louis. This box will link this to the truck, and this is important for IFTA purposes. Okay, so if this box is checked, we will now show that 50 gallons of fuel were purchased in St. Louis, Missouri for truck 31, and we'll use that for your IFTA reporting. Okay, the last box here is trailer, and if you do reefers and you have reefer fuel, you can assign that here and put this here, and then we have a report that you can see how much reefer fuel have you used and how much truck fuel. Okay, does that kind of make sense so far?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, and then these two boxes over here are up to you. So do you want to export this to QuickBooks? And so basically what this means is we're going to send over a transaction to QuickBooks showing we purchased fuel and that you owe whoever your fuel provider is for that fuel. Okay, if this box is not checked, then we're not going to send anything to QuickBooks. And then this box is, do you want to deduct this money back from the driver? Okay, so if this box is checked, then we'll try to take that money back from the driver, either on a trip or set up a deduction for them. If the box is not checked, then we would not try to collect that money back. Okay, and then on those advances that will come over, you may have multiple lines. So, you might have fuel and then a carrier fee for whatever your fee is. And this is how an advance would be built. Okay. And then I could create additional advances if you need to. What will happen daily with that EFS integration is the system will auto-generate these batches for you every day and grab all of those fuel advances that came in that day and put them onto a batch here for you. Okay. And to see where that is, under rate and pay and process advances will be where those batches will come in. And you'll be able to click on this little lighthouse there, and it will show you a list of all of the advance batches, how many advances were on it, and information like that. In this description, it's going to say this is from EFS, or this is from PrePass, or whoever you're integrating with to pull in those advances, and it will have a date stamp on it for which date it was. Okay, and then you'll be able to open it up and see all of the different advances for that day. When you're in this batch, up the top, it's going to give you a total. So there's one advance on this batch for 152.50. We're going to export and deduct that whole amount. If there was any differences there, you'd be able to kind of see it here and then go down each line to see which advance might not be correct. Okay. Here, you can see if it's linked to a driver and a truck. Okay. If it's not, for whatever reason, you can click on the little pencil, and then they'll often send you notes here. The system will link, again, the driver off of this fuel card number, and will link the truck off of the unit number that's either on that card or that your driver types in at the pump. Okay. So as long as that fuel card number matches a truck in your system, we'll link the truck there. Okay. Does that part make sense? Any questions about that? No? Okay. So
Yes, Josh. So
yeah.
One moment. So Lucy is gonna be here with me. I'm a little bit too busy here, so Lucy's gonna just be with you. Okay.
Okay.
I'm still here. I'm just sometimes I won't be able to respond to you,
Yeah,
but I'm still here.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's the advance section. Okay. Just like on the invoices, once you're done with it and you're ready to send it off, you would post that. Once you post it, you'll see it'll put the posted here, and then that would send that transaction to QuickBooks. And if it's set to deduct from a driver, it's going to send it to this next screen, and that would be this rate and pay apply advances screen. Okay, and here we're going to try to match up that fuel to a trip for that driver. Okay, and what we do is we look at which trip are they on that day or for the next 7 days afterwards, and try to link it there. So in this case, we got fuel today. I don't see Josh is on any trips today or for the next week, so it didn't select it for you. You can come in here and hit trip and search for the trip for Josh, and link it that way. So I'm going to put this on trip 28. Okay, and I can do the same thing for the second one here. Okay, and so now when I hit select, it's going to put those fuel advances. Trip 28 for that driver. No, wrong Josh. Sorry, I made my fuel advance for the wrong driver. Forgot I had 2 Joshes in the system. Give me 1 second. Let's reverse that and make this for Josh T. Okay. And so now when we post it, you'll see here now we see Josh T was on trip 27 that day. And so that's the one we think it should go to. And so that's the way the system should normally catch that. As long as you want to put it on that trip, you can hit select all and export it. If you don't want that trip, so maybe your guys do short hauls, and we're on 2 trips that day, and I don't want it on trip 27. Instead, I do want it on 28. You can come here and select the trip you want to put it on instead. Most of the time, our customers just come in here, and whatever's suggested, they're going to click this and hit export, and then that's going to apply those advances to that trip. So if I look at trip 27 now, which you'll see is down here at the bottom, we've got a section where we can calculate their pay. so we can pay the driver for this load. And down here would be the advances for his fuel that we're going to take back from the driver. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions about that so far? No? Okay. Let me add some pay on this so we can pay that driver for this too. Okay, so that would be how once you get your advances linked, that process is going to work. You guys will also be able to configure your advances. So how do you want those advances to come in every day? And that happens in the setup options screen down here at the bottom. And here we've got an integrate with EFS. And this is where we're going to create your setup. So as soon as you guys fill out that online thing with EFS, they'll send us the credentials to pull in here. And that's how we'll grab your files every day. And then in this section right here, what we're going to do is tell the system, okay, if we get a fuel advance, how should we treat it? Okay. And this first column here is every different type of advance that EFS will send us. So they'll send us fuel additives, oil, so on. And next to that, we created an advance type and DITAT to match. And then that way you can map them how you want to QuickBooks. So you can map them all to go to the same place. You can map them all to go to different places. It's totally up to you. This next column is, do you want us to import it into the system? Okay, and so almost all of our customers have this box checked for everything, that yes, import anything that you see on the file into the system. Okay, if this box is unchecked, then we would not import that line. So for example, this line here is discrepancy, and discrepancy is the rounding that makes the math work. So if I buy 25.99 gallons of fuel at $3.9999, it's not going to come out to an even number, but they're going to send us that it did. So this discrepancy line will often be a penny plus or minus to make that math come out. Okay. And so some people don't even want to see it. So they'll just uncheck this box and we won't import that into the system. You'll never see it. And then just if you added the lines up, the total at the bottom might not match up exactly. Okay. Others, and again, most of our customers have that line checked, and we're just going to bring everything into the system. The next column is, do you want to export it to QuickBooks? Okay. And so a lot of our customers will uncheck that line. Okay, bring it into DITAT. Let's make sure that everything looks good and it's adding up, but I don't want to see a positive and negative penny in QuickBooks for all these transactions, so they won't export that. Okay, and then the next two columns are, if this is a company driver, do you want to deduct it from them? And if it's an owner operator, do you want to deduct it from them? Okay, so you can go through each one and say, well, no, I don't want to deduct that penny. I don't want to give them that penny back. We're just going to ignore the discrepancy. Okay, all right, if it's a company driver and we have a cash advance, yes, I want to take that money back from them. No, I don't want to take the fee. Or yes, you do want to take the fee. Okay, so you can set these up kind of how you want it to be, and we'll follow those rules. Okay, this is the most common setup that our customers do, but obviously you can change it the way you need it once we get that set up. Okay, and then you guys will also have the second tier integration. So once we get everything set up, we'll go through this again, but on this screen here is where you can go in and set up each user in DITAT to log into EFS. Okay, so you give us that EFS login username and password and their DITAT username here, and then that would give them the ability to give out the advances in our system or to manage fuel cards from DITAT. Okay. And then I guess the last thing I should have pointed out here is we have this box here that you can split discounts if you want. So if you get fuel discounts, if this box is checked, then you'll have one line that'll say fuel, and then a second line that will be the discount. And that way you can give or not give that discount back. If this box is not checked, then instead of having a fuel and a discount, you're just going to have fuel at that discounted price. So you've got the option of how you want to handle that with this box here. Okay, and that would be how you can manage your EFS transactions once they're set up. Again, they're going to come into your process advances here. You'll be able to look up the batch for that day. Once you post it, it's going to then go to the process advances screen if you're set to deduct. And then here you can, again, line it up just like we did here. One thing you'll see is sometimes I may put an advance on a trip and it's not correct. So I don't want that advance on trip 27. So I can actually come back into that trip as long as I haven't added it to a batch yet and take the fuel off. Okay, so I don't want either of those on there. And what you'll see the next time you go back to that process or the apply advances screen, they'll be sitting there waiting for you to put them on a load again. Okay, so I can then come in here and no, that should have been trip 28 instead. And I could put those on that trip instead. Okay, does that process make sense? Does anybody have any questions about that?
All good.
No? Okay. There may be a time when a fuel advance is too much to take back at one point in time. Or maybe you get a, you have to give somebody out a money code for a truck repair and they can't pay for it all right now. Okay, I can't take it all off one trip. It's going to be too much. That's what this deduction box would be for. Okay, and so you can do that. And what we're going to do is set up a deduction for this driver to come off of their next settlement, or you can kind of split it up over mini settlements if you need to. And then here you can add whatever types you need. So we've got some in here. I'm going to say this is a loan, but you could add any other types you want as well. And what will happen is if I apply it to that, you'll see it's going to create a standard deduction for that driver. Okay, so I got now a deduction for Josh T. If you want to see what those deductions look like, they're going to be under rate and pay and enter deductions, which is the very top one there. Okay, you'll see deduction number 1 got created. That came from that advance that we just had there. Okay, and so what this is going to tell us is what type of advance it is and what driver is it for. When are we going to start charging it? So in this case, we're going to start charging it on the 13th. So whatever settlements after the 13th, we're going to try to pull this from. This is going to be a current settlement, so we're going to try to take it all off of the next settlement. Okay. You can also here switch this to be weekly or monthly. So if it's a large amount, it's a $5,000 truck repair. Maybe we want to take it out of their next 3 checks. So you could set it up to be a weekly, and instead of doing the full 151, I could take $50 at a time. Okay, and so we're going to take a total 151 from them, just $50 a time weekly. Okay, so you can kind of set this up however you want to do it there. Okay, does that kind of make sense how that process will work?
Yeah, no questions so far.
Okay, so I want to show you a couple of these that are pretty common that people will do. So let's say you have insurance for a driver. You can go in there and set that to come out of their settlement every week, and so you can set it up to be a weekly $75. If you set up a weekly type of deduction, you'll have to have a start date, and that start date's always going to need to be a Monday. Okay, so for a week, it always has to start on a Monday. If this deduct in advance box is checked, what that means is $75 is due on the 12th. Okay, if this box is not checked, then it's not due until the following Monday on the 19th. So deduct in advance just means it's due on the start date. If it's not checked, then it's due the next increment afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to set this up to be a $75 deduction coming out weekly. Below here, I have a max one-time amount. And so what that means is, okay, maybe there's a week that Josh didn't have loads. So there was no settlement for him that week. And the next week we're going to do a settlement. Well, now he owes $150. should we take all 150 at a time? If this box is empty, we're going to collect whatever the driver owes on the very next settlement. Okay, but you may want to set this to be, okay, well, we can't take $1,000 from the driver at once. So if he falls behind, don't take more than $200 at a time. Okay, and so if he falls a couple weeks behind on the deductions, we would take $200 every week until he gets caught back up. Okay, and at the bottom down here, we have either a total amount to deduct, so we can set this up and say, okay, deduct until we hit a grand total, or an end date, or neither. So if neither of those boxes are checked, then Josh's insurance is just going to go on until we manually go in and hit cancel, or you terminate the driver, basically. So kind of whatever happens there. Okay, and then same type of thing would happen with monthly. So we see often that there will be monthly deduction set up. Oh, and I really need it to be that driver. So we might have monthly phone payments. Okay, so if you're putting the tablet in the truck and you guys are going to pay for it and you're going to take it back from the driver, you can set up deductions for that as well. Okay, if you do monthly, this will need to start at the beginning of a month. Okay, does this make sense? Any questions about this while we're here? No? Okay. Once you've added a deduction, you'll see there's a cancel deduction button that'll appear up here. There's also a view history, and this will show you how much the driver owes as of today. Okay, so you'll always be able to see all of the different times you've taken the money from the driver, how much you've collected, and what they owe at this point. So this is where you can go in and kind of check what's going on with a driver's deductions. Okay. So you can go in and set up your deductions for your drivers that in there. And we have an import. So if you have the same type of deductions for all of your drivers, you can export this to get like an Excel file that you can use. You can fill out your drivers, what you need to import, and then import them in. Okay. So that's how you can set up your deductions. Once that's done and you've processed your advances for the week, then you're ready to pay your drivers. And to pay the drivers, it's going to be here under process settlements. Once you go into process settlements, just like the others, there's a new batch button, and there's a place here to look up batches that are in the system. If I want to create a new batch, I'll just hit new batch here. And like it was on the invoice batch, which of your companies are you going to pay from? And then this date is what trips are we going to pay up to, and what date are we going to use to calculate what deductions are owed. Okay, so that'll become important. If I've got a weekly deduction that started on the 12th, if I pick that we're paying on the 20th, then they're going to owe 2 weeks. Okay, if I pick the 13th, then they're going to owe 1 week. Okay, once I hit save, you'll see that'll open up my add trip and my apply deductions button. And that's where I'll go in to start adding my trips. Okay. At the top, we've got options of how you can find what trips do you want to pay for. Okay. So some of our customers might say, I'm only going to pay if we have the proof of delivery in the folder. And they could say, well, yeah, I'm going to pay you up to the 13th, but we had to have had the proof of delivery by the 11th to pay for this load. Okay. So you can use these boxes to help you find the loads you want to pay for. If you don't really care about if it's been invoiced or if the proof of delivery is in, you can uncheck those boxes. And then here you'll see a list of all of the loads that are completed and ready to be paid. Okay. You can also search by a specific driver. You can look it up by trip number. And you can also go back more than a month. So the system's always going to start with kind of going back 1 month, but maybe you need to go back and look for older loads that you weren't able to pay for whatever reason. You can expand that date range and we would find all of those loads. Once you get onto these screens, anywhere you see a screen like this, you can sort by. So I can kind of sort to see when I have PODs or if they were invoiced. You can also over here see which pay plan, customer, what driver you're dealing with, kind of all of that information. Okay. On this, once you have your filter set the way you want, most people would hit select all and then okay, and then that's going to go in and create your different batches or settlements. Okay, so this is settlement number 1. On batch 1, this is for our driver Josh T. He did 3 trips. Here's his pay and the advances that were taken back from him. There's no reimbursements or expenses on those loads right now, and no deductions. Okay, once they get all of their drivers or payees onto the settlement here, what they would do is hit apply deductions, and that's going to look to all the deductions that are in the system and apply them to that driver settlement. Okay, if I want to look at the settlement, I can click on this little edit settlement button here, and you'll see this is going to show me 3 trips, the adjusted gross revenue we use towards paying those loads, how much we're paying, again, same things, advances, reimbursements, deductions, and the total that we're going to pay. Up here, you've got each trip. If I need to get in and edit the trip information, similar to the way it was on the invoices, maybe I need to add additional pay. I can open up a trip here, come down to the bottom. There was detention on this load. Okay, I can go in and add that on. Okay, once I add it onto the trip, when I come back to my settlement, hit the little refresh, and it will add that on there. Okay, does that process make sense? Any questions about that so far?
No question.
Okay.
No.
All right. Same thing here. You can see the shipment. You can also get in and edit it if you need to. Look for documents that they've applied. So like I can see there wasn't a POD here. I could go in and attach it if I need to, kind of any of that info you would need. At the bottom down here, you're going to see the deductions that the system created for you. Okay, so in this case, Josh has 3 deductions that he needs to pay. One is that loan that we did. That should be for $151. If that's too much, you could edit it here. So I could say, well, I only want to take $100 this time. And so there would still be $51 for the next settlement that we would take back. Okay. You can also see his insurance and phone payments are down here as well. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we're following.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to change this real quick, just so you that if I change this date. So instead of the 13th, we're now paying on the 20th for those same loads. What you see when I apply deductions, now our weekly deduction is going to be more. Okay, so it's now his insurance. He owes 2 weeks worth of insurance, so that upped that automatically. Okay, so the system's always going to kind of calculate what they owe up to that pay date. Okay. So once you get your settlement kind of the way you want it, all you're going to have to do is hit post here, and that would generate that settlement. You can preview what a settlement would look like either from this screen by hitting print selected. At the top up here, you're going to see which payee you have, their year-to-date earnings, as well as their current earnings, advances, reimbursements, and deductions. Down here, you'll get an earning section. If this was a carrier, so maybe you have a lessor and he's got multiple drivers, up here where it says driver ID, instead it would say carrier ID. And once we get to this earnings section, it would be the first driver, all of his trips and a total. Second driver, all their trips and a total. Okay. Same thing will happen in the advances and deductions section. Everything will be grouped down by driver in each one of those sections. Okay. If they're individual drivers, then they're going to have individual settlements. Okay. But if it's a lessor and they've got multiple drivers, they'll all be combined on the one. Okay. If the driver was set to get their settlement emailed, there'd be a little envelope here. And once we hit post, that would get sent to them. Okay. Once you post it, we also set everything to transfer over to QuickBooks. At the top up here, you've got a print summary. And this, you can see kind of a list of all of the different settlements that are on this batch, how much you're paying for each settlement with totals and all this information. Okay. Any questions about the settlement process right now? Okay. Down at the bottom, you'll also see. I'm sorry?
I've got one question actually.
Okay.
It's me, Warren, and my Frank, my colleague. We work with invoices, and we joined the session a bit later.
Mhm.
So in the end of the session, could you please go through the invoice process again?
Yeah, I can give you a quick
All right.
show of
Thank
what
you.
we did there. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So if the only other thing on a settlement that you might have is expenses, and expenses to us are reimbursements. So here you can reimburse them for anything you need to pay them for, and that will just add on another line to their settlement. So when I add that on, and I come back to my settlement screen itself here, you'll see that we'll now add on reimbursements, and that will go onto their settlement. And I can also preview that settlement here to see we added the reimbursements into that section as well. Okay. And again, once I'm done with that batch, I hit refresh here to update it, and then I post it, and it will send that off to the driver and or QuickBooks. Okay. Any settlement related questions?
Okay.
No? Okay. So
Yes.
that's kind of all I had. I'm sorry. Did somebody else have something?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, all good.
Okay. So the kind of going back to what Warren was asking about for invoicing, that
Sure. I was asking that.
that happens here under rate and pay
Mhm.
and process invoices. Okay. And to create a new batch, you're going to hit the new batch button up here, and it's going to generate your next available invoice batch. Okay. Here, which of your companies are you going to bill your customers from? So if you have shipments for Zeus, you may need to switch it over to that company to bill those loads. Okay, so you would switch which of your companies are you billing from here. At the top, you'll use add shipments to get a list of all the shipments that we need to invoice. Okay, and this will show you all of the loads that are completed but have not been invoiced at that point in time. Once you click this little shipment box here, it will allow me to add that to our batch. Okay, and so now in this case, this is invoice 2702 because we already invoiced shipment 27 once. This is the additional information that we're putting on there. On this screen, you can look up what documents are on the load. So if I have a confirmation sheet, I can attach it here. Same thing with like proof of delivery. I could also, if it was already on there, preview it to see what it looks like. Okay. And then once this is ready to be sent, I would hit the post, and that will send that off and generate the bundle. And I'm going to look at invoice batch number 1 that we did a little bit earlier because the bundle's been generated for that. And so you can kind of see what that would look like. When you want to download the bundle to send to your factoring company, you would go to document management up here at the top. And then we're going to have a bundle sitting here. So in this case, the first sheet of the bundle is a cover sheet, shows you who you're remitting this to. Okay. And since you guys use factoring companies, what you'll want to do on the company in this remit to side, you want to put your factoring company's information. And that way, that's what's on the top of those invoices, is that they need to remit payment to that company. Okay. And then if you do any direct billing, there's actually a place on each customer down at the bottom here that you can tell us what invoice form to use. The default invoice form that's already on every customer uses the remit to information on it. Okay, but we also have one that's called direct bill. So invoice direct customer that you can use. And instead of putting the remit to information at the top, we're going to put your company's information at the top. Okay, so if you do some direct billing, you can put that invoice direct on them and batch them on their own batch, and it won't go to your factoring company in that bundle, as where the rest of them will create this bundle with their information, and then we'll put that same remit to at the top of that invoice. And then in this bundle, it's always the cover sheet first, the first invoice, and then the supporting documents for that invoice, and then the next invoice. And then it just works its way down. Okay. Once you have this, you can use this little green arrow here to download it to your computer. And then you can email it off to your factoring company or however you get it to them today. Okay. Does that make sense? Any questions about that?
Sure, no questions so far.
Okay. All right, so that's again how you would invoice. I also showed them that on a load. So like I know we've invoiced shipment 25 here, and you can look at the status here to see if it's been invoiced or not. But like shipment 25, you can see up here at the top, we put notes on it once you do invoices. So at 4:14, we posted the first batch for invoice 25. And then we added on at 4:18. Okay. So you can, even though this load has been invoiced, if you missed something or overcharged, you can open that shipment back up and keep adding on other things at any point in time. So we forgot a lumper on here. Okay. We can go in and create a new invoice. Still going to have that same 25 on it, but it's going to be, in this case, 03 for the third bill. Okay, and so once I go to process invoices, you'll see shipment 25 will show up again, but this time only the $150 for the lumper fee. Okay, and then once I post it, again, it's going to generate a bundle that you can send off, and you can also here print the current invoice. So if I need it quicker, I can go in and print it here. You'll see just that lumper charge on here. You could also print a summary invoice, which is the next box over, and this will show you a list of all of the charges for shipment 25. Okay, so down here at the bottom, you'll see the contracted and fuel that we initially did. Then we came in and added 2.5 hours of detention, and then added a lumper, and they have one grand total at the bottom to pay. Okay. Any questions about the invoicing process?
All good are following.
Okay. On each customer, when they were imported, you guys told us how you want to bill. Okay. So I think the majority of your customers right now are set to bill via mail. If they're set to bill via mail, basically once you post it in our system, we're going to be done with it. We're not really going to do anything else. You do have an option on each customer to bill via email. If you check this box, you'll have to have an email address here in the bill to, but we would then email a copy of that invoice to that customer once you post it. Okay, so even with factoring companies, sometimes they like you to kind of get ahead of it and do it that way. So you can set that up on the customer to do it. And then especially if you're doing any direct billing to them, you can set them up to bill via email and change to use the direct bill template here and not go through the factoring company for that customer. Okay. There's also a place at the bottom down here where you can set up invoicing rules. So, a lot of customers will say, okay, well, we won't accept an invoice if it doesn't have a weight on it or something to that effect. You can come down here and create rules. And so you can use any of these different fields, reference field 1 through 5 from the shipment, weight, units, fuel, kind of any of that. And you could say, okay, wait required for 01. Okay. And then you can put whatever description you want down here. So maybe we're just going to call the rule rate required for customer 01. Okay. And then I can say wait is required. Okay. You can also, with these reference fields, you can say they're required and that they have to follow a certain pattern. So maybe your customer's reference number is always the number 8 and 6 other numbers afterwards. So you can 8 and then 6 hashtags to put in numbers. Okay. And in our help guide, we've got a list of some of those invoicing rule tags that you can use. So down here at the bottom, you'll see you can do any number with the number sign as characters. Okay. And so it kind of gives you a list of some options that you can do in those rules if you need to for your customers. Okay. Do you guys have any other invoicing related questions?
No questions, sir. You may go on.
Okay.
By the way, can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So that's really all I had for you guys today. Like I mentioned earlier, once you guys fill out that EFS form and send it off, so I sent Frank and Tiger a form of the steps of how you request that integration. Once that's set up, we can do another call and I can kind of show you how those invoice batches come in and post them. And then, between now and when you guys are ready to actually go live with the system, if you guys need to set up another kind of question and answer period, we can do that. Anything else you guys need to look at today? No? Okay. Well, then that's all I got for you guys today. I'll go ahead and finish this recording, put it in the folder with all the other ones. If you guys have any questions, just let me know.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Thank you for the session.
Have a good day. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good day.